right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call this meeting to order. Can I get a motion, please, that the agenda for the July 20th, 2021 regular meeting of council be adopted with the addition of M2 advice from officials? Go ahead, Councillor Chenard. Thank you. All those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that the minutes of the June 15th, 2021 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Councillor Wilkinson will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. We have no delegations, no public hearings, reading of bylaws. Can I get a motion, please, that council give first reading to bylaw number 2260, which amends land use bylaw 2070. Councillor Sorensen will make that motion, and I'll hand things over to CAO Beveridge if you want to just give us an overview of this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have Mandy Chan in attendance to be able to walk council through this land use bylaw amendment for the recycling depot to be included in additional districts as a discretionary use.
Thank you, CEO Beveridge. So good evening, council. During the committee of the whole last week, administrations presented the land use bylaw textual amendments for council to review. So as a brief overview, the applicant is applying for an amendment to the land use bylaw number 2070 to add recycling depots to the C1 retail commercial districts to facilitate the development of a bottle depot at an existing building. So after administration reviewed the land use bylaw, recycling depot or another similar use is not listed as permitted or discretionary use in any of the district. So therefore, administration proposed several land use districts in the land use bylaw where recycling depot could be listed as a use. So there are several components to the amendments. The first one is to add the definition of recycling depot to section 6 definition. Second is to add recycling depot related use development standard to section 87. The third one is to add recycling depot as a discretionary use in 2 commercial districts and a light industrial unserviced district to allow development authority to condition any approval given the potential impact on the neighboring land. Lastly is to add recycling depot as a permitted use in light industrial service district and the heavy industrial district, as the proposed use is suitable for the general purpose of these districts outlined in the last land use bylaw. To facilitate diverse and strong economic opportunities, offering a variety in several districts while maintaining public well-being, administration recommend that council give first reading to bylaw number 2260 and also set a public hearing for August 17, 2021 during the regular scheduled council meeting for the town of Edson. Thank you, and we're open to any question council may have for administration.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chan. So I will open the floor. Council, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns? I see none, so I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. And can I get a motion, please, that council set a public hearing for August 17th, 2021 during the regularly scheduled council meeting for the town of Edson? Councillor Bevan will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Councillor Curry, thank you. Motion carried. Reports from administration. Can I get a motion, please, that council deny the 1-year time extension request for plan endorsement for the approved subdivision as outlined in the agenda package? Councillor Curry will make that motion. And CEO Beveridge, do you want to give us an overview of this item, or is it going to be Ms. Chan again?
Mr. Mayor, it will be Ms. Chan. Also, Mr. Fisher will also be joining us from the capacity side.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Chan.
Okay, let me just share my screen here. And can everyone see the screen and everything looks so good? Okay, awesome. So good evening again, council. So tonight I have prepared a presentation on the time extension for plan endorsement on subdivision application 2014 TOE 008. So as an overview, I will start by providing the background along with the history of the applications. I will then speak on to some of the concerns that are being raised, and then I will move into the legislative side, speaking about how the Municipal Government Act, MGA, and the subdivisions development regulation related to this application, followed by the considerations and recommendations. And then in the very end, we will open up to any question that council may have for administration. As background, on June 28, 2021, the landowner requests a time extension for plan endorsement on subdivision application. Currently expiry date is December 2nd, 2015 to July 20th, 2022. So this slide shows the timeline of the application. The subdivision application was originally approved on December 3rd, 2014. In 2014, a tentative subdivisions plan was submitted by the applicants within the 1-year timeframe from the subdivision's approval date. The conditions of the approval were not met, and the endorsement of the subdivision was not obtained by the approval's expiry on December 2nd, 2015. The applicant requests a time extension to the expiry of the subdivision approval on June 28th, 2021 to continue working towards endorsement and registrations of the subdivision. Several items are outstanding at this time and would be dealt with should the extension be approved. These items include subdivision agreements and also redesignations of the property. For concerns, I kind of split it into the planning and the engineering side of it. So in planning, at this time, the subdivision approval has not been endorsed. An area structure plan amendment will be required before the plan is endorsed and registered in accordance with the requirements of the Municipal Government Act, MGA. Several items are outstanding at this time, as I mentioned in the previous slide, and would be dealt with should the extensions be approved. Items include the subdivision agreements, which will be dealing with the roads, servicing, and also payment of the offsite levy, and also the redesignations of the property. Administration further evaluated the outstanding concerns, and most fall under the purview of the subdivision agreements. In the engineering side, one significant item remains related to the capacity of the town sanitary system. Our 2020 annual wastewater reports to the Alberta Environment and Parks, AEP, indicated that there is a negative hydraulic capacity in reserve for managing peak sanitary flows. Administration believes that this is due to the inflow and infiltrations and is a symptom of aging infrastructure and deficits identified in the asset management plan. For other concerns, so approving this extension approved the previous plan, which actually limits our ability to work with the developer engineering team to find alternative solutions to the capacity concerns. Another concern that we have is that we need newer data to evaluate the servicing, and it actually make time to do the collections and also doing analysis on the constraints depending on the resource available. Moving on to the regulations, that's how the Municipal Government Act and the Subdivisions Development Regulation applies. So as I've mentioned in the timeline, in 2014, a tentative subdivision plan was submitted by the applicants within the 1-year timeframe from the subdivision approval date. So therefore, it actually meets the requirements of the MGA Section 657, subsection 1. The applicant has 1 year from subdivision approval to endorse, then 1 year from endorsement to registration. And then at this time, the subdivision approval has not been endorsed. Also, according to the MGA Section 657, subsection 6, An applicant may request and council may extend the timelines to complete an approval subdivision, whether the period has expired or not. On the other side is the subdivision and development regulation. It actually stated that in making a decision as to whether to approve an application for subdivision, the subdivision authority must consider with respect to the land that is the subject of the application, the availability and also an adequacy of a sewage disposal system. So with this statement, this actually plays a very important role to determine the next step forward for this subdivision, as the sanitary system has been a raised concern. As for consideration, the decisions for approving the subdivision was made nearly 7 years ago in 2014, based on the engineering models from 2004 to 2011. In the intervening time, a new hospital had been developed on the adjacent land in 2016. A newer sanitary model has been done in 2017. A new wastewater treatment plant has come online, and we have more accurate flow monitorings in 2019. The Parks and Edson Area Structure Plan identifies that sewer capacity of 12 liters per second is in a pre-hospital state. Since 2011, the remaining capacity in the line has been reduced to estimate 5 liters per second. The proposed residential subdivision proposed to add an addition of 80 liters per second to the line, which actually leaving an overrun around 75 liters per second in that sanitary pipe section. So in our current state, it would be inappropriate to approve a new residential subdivision without the capacity to serve its sanitary wastewater need. For a recommendation, the infrastructure and planning team has explored possible solutions, interim workarounds, and alternatives to the developments. However, we're stuck with the possibility of facing and approved and registered subdivisions that cannot be served appropriately. Planning is therefore bringing forward the request for a time extension with the recommendation that council refuse the extension. The results of refusing the extension would be that the existing subdivision approval would lapse. Any future developments on the site would require a new application for subdivisions. The developer would face a time delay in getting homes built and an additional application cost, unless it is waived by the Chief Administration Officer. For additional notes for council is that the developer was advised that in order to continue with this subdivision process, a time extension would need to be approved by council. Also, a call was given to the developers to let him know that the administration would be bringing the time extension request forward with the recommendation for refusal based on the concern noted. And lastly, there would not be a waiting period owned by the developer if the time extension is refused. A refusal of the time extension would simply void the original approval since endorsement was not received by December 2nd, 2015. The developer could, if they wish, apply tomorrow for a new subdivision approvals on the subject land. And thank you for your attention, and we are open up for any questions that council may have for administration.
All right, thank you, Ms. Chan, for your presentation here today. And we do have Mr. Fisher here as well, our capital projects manager, to answer any questions in regards to the capacity issues with the sewer line. So with that, I will open the floor to questions, and we will go to Councillor Chenard.
Hi, yes, through to Mr. Fisher. As we, my question is on the capacity. Are we planning on doing some studies? Because I'm hearing aging lines and stuff, but when we approved this years ago, we weren't hearing that. So now fully understand, we have a hospital, we have a new sewer treatment. So can we expect up-to-date, accurate on what exactly our flow is? And if there is a cost for new sewer lines, how soon are we going to find out what it would take to put this subdivision through? Because there's more land. So I'm very curious on that.
Thank you, Councillor Chenard. Mr. Fisher?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Mayor Zahara, through to Councillor Chenard. Regarding your question on if there is any future study and current study being planned, that is absolutely a most definite yes. We have in our 5-year capital plan for next year, we have some money earmarked for a sanitary condition assessment, which includes an INI study, so we can capture that information. We also went last year with the Smart Covers program, installed rain gauges and sewer monitoring devices in manholes, and that information will be used to help calibrate the future studies and the model. And I've also reached out to the developer to share the information I have with them and allow them to review it and provide me with some additional information that we can work through it together, ideally.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fisher. Anybody else have any questions, comments, or concerns? Go ahead, Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mandy, I guess you said outstanding was redesignation of the property. I just don't understand what that means.
Go ahead, Ms. Chan.
For Mayor Zahara to Councillor Wilkinson. So for redesignation, that will be based on if they would like to have like apartment units or other uses for for single family dwellings. So that will be where the redesignation applies to those.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson, you have a follow-up?
Oh, yes, and I have more than that, but my follow-up is, would you mind telling me what an INI is, please, Pat Fisher? Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Fisher.
Yeah.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Wilkinson, I apologize for using an abbreviation. It's inflow and infiltration. So it's water that gets into the sanitary system through either groundwater leaks or storm conditions. So right now we've got some rain and I'm hoping that I can get some better monitoring data. But it's all the weather events in the groundwater that gets into the sanitary system that ideally we don't want in there. And it happens from the gaskets start to wear down as they get older. If we've got settlement issues, it can cause some gaps or some cracks in the pipe, and just general condition as it deteriorates. It opens it up for more sources of rain and groundwater to get into the piping system.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Anybody else have any further questions before we circle back? Councillor Bevan?
Yeah, through the chair to Pat here and added Mandy. I noticed you said that maybe a lift system would work out there where he is at right now. Would that solve our problem at all? I mean, we still have problems with our trunk line and that. How far of a lift system does he have to put it in? And I know the golf course out here has a lift system to getting into our lines out here, and they have nothing but problem with it in the past. So is this really going to solve anything for him if he decides to go that way? And he's going to have to pay for that, I would imagine, eh?
Mr. Fisher, go ahead.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Bevan. Through the chair to Councillor Bevan, the lift station may, I think we need better data that we would work with them to evaluate. So we would look at their proposed current subdivision and the future and come up with a servicing plan, very high level. I'm not asking for detailed design level information at this point. And we could evaluate if those things are on the table or not. Refusing right now and coming to the asking them to reapply with a new subdivision lets us change some of the lot lines so that we can look at things like that. Without doing that, it gets without refusing this and making them reapply, it's really hard for us to take additional space for things like that if we need to.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bevan, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I guess it's just to do with the town as a whole. Are we going to look at the town as a whole where we have other problems right now with our trunk lines? Because I know there was a few places that in the past we did have them. So instead of just looking at this one spot, will you be looking at the whole of town?
Go ahead, Mr. Fisher or Mr. Ham.
Thank you, Mayor, and through the chair to Councillor Bevan. It is our sole purpose is to look at the entire town and all of the infrastructure that has deficiencies to find more appropriate, more efficient, and better ways to deal with some of the inefficiencies that we currently have, especially with capacity. So as Mr. Fisher had alluded to, we have some upcoming information to capture, and also we're relying on our asset management plan, which last stated was $172 million deficit. So we do have some work ahead of us.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ham. Councillor Curry, go ahead.
Hi, just a comment. One, thank you, Ms. Chan. As always, a very detailed presentation. I appreciate it. You make it easy for us to understand. I just want to commend admin to bringing this to us in the way that we're not going down a road that then we're going to have to go back with the developer when they've already gone down a road and have to correct it. So I really appreciate that, and seeing it ahead of time and working with the developer to ensure that we actually are approving something that can be done. So I think this is a good chance for us to do that and not allow a developer to spend money that can then not be serviced. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Curry. Anybody else? Councillor Wilkinson, go ahead.
Do you want to speak first? I'm sorry, I don't mean to hog it.
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, I guess it gets to be more of a comment now that some of the things are partially answered, but we knew we would have the hospital already at the time that we approved that subdivision. So now finding this out, I just would like assurance that there will be fixes, that a subdivision could go ahead there. It would be very disappointing if there was no hope of having one. So is that an assurance, Mr. Fisher, that there will be a way that there could be a subdivision built there someday?
All right, we're going to let Mr. Ham answer that
Okay,
question.
thank
We'll throw
you,
him
Mr.
under the
Ham.
bus. Go ahead, Mr. Ham.
Thank you through the chair to Councillor Wilkinson. I think that what Mr. Fisher, myself, and our planning department would say is that it is 100% going to be our greatest effort to make this happen. We've already started to look for some alternative measures to make this happen for this particular subdivision. But as alluded to in a little bit in this conversation, we do want to widen our scope and make sure that we're able to expand in other areas as well and focus on the expansion that the community can absorb currently and in the future. And some of those issues will be resolved through our focus on inflow and infiltration in our sanitary system. So to put that into a succinct answer, the answer is yes.
Well, then I would really like to thank the three of you very much for your presentation and the work you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Anybody else? Anything new? All right, thanks everyone. I'm just going to echo what's been said, that I think it's really important that we as a community don't hold up development because of issues with our infrastructure. We need to deal with that and come up with a plan to try to address that. I think the way forward on this as presented by administration is the right decision, because it would be absolutely inappropriate for us to approve an extension when we know we have an issue with our capacity within the community. And I look forward to getting more information as next year's study hopefully will occur. I also believe that we do have a lot of households in our community that have sump pumps, etc., tied into our sanitary system, which is a problem. And we may have to look at programs to get people to maybe adjust how they're set up to ensure that we are diverting that flow out of our sanitary system into the appropriate stormwater management system. With that, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council add $30,000 to the Human Resources 2021 operating budget and fund it from the Revenue Sharing Reserve? Councillor Chouinard will make that motion, and we have Ms. Bittner with us. Go ahead, Ms. Bittner.
Thank you, Council. As you know, when we redo our budgets in the spring, we go back and look at some things that may not have been completed in the previous year and add them on. This was one that just got missed in our changeover from 2020 to 2021. So this is for the payment of our new payroll system. So we're just bringing this forward and asking council to add it to this year's budget with the same funding that it had in last year's budget.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bittner. I'll open the floor to questions, comments, or concerns. The only thing I would ask Ms. Bittner, so I'm assuming that this money was not spent last year. This isn't additional funds, it's just basically moving from one year over to the other. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bittner. Anybody else have questions? If not, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion, please, that council approve the extension of the interest-free period on the Community Futures West Yellowhead Town of Edson loan program from 180 days to 365 days? Councillor Bevan will make that motion. CO Beveridge, do you want to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this was a very much a collaborative effort between Ms. Bittner and I. Ms. Bittner did present at the committee of the whole meeting at length with regards to the options. We did walk through as far as the grant program and what that could look like as far as the criteria that was presented and opportunities there based on sector based, if you will, the ability for the grant to assist businesses that were most affected due to the COVID the COVID or public health orders. So that was the one aspect, and the other aspect was was brought forward was about the loan and the ability to potentially extend out the interest-free period. And the third option that was presented was the just to allow the loan program to stay as status quo and not to adjust at this time. And I will, essentially pass this over to Ms. Bittner for the balance, but essentially we brought forward based on the conversation and the discussion that was had during the committee of the whole meeting. And hopefully and we also provided alternatives as well. So we've tried to bring this forward in a way that was easily digestible as far as the three options, and then also provided another unique option of both. So if I have missed anything, Ms. Bittner, if you would, so we'd happy to have you supplement me.
Thanks, Sarah Beveridge. I think that they covered it fully.
All right, I will open the floor to questions, comments, or concerns. I know you guys had a discussion last week at length, and we did have another discussion a few weeks prior to that. So I think we've batted it around quite a bit. Any questions, comments? Councillor Curry.
Just knowing that it's we've struggled to come to consensus on this. I'm okay with starting out with that loan, extending that interest and going with that and seeing if that is the reason and seeing if, that's where we fall and if it is just timing. However, I do think that council needs to have some pretty tight timelines on when we want to see that pickup of. Once again, my concern all along about this has been we've only had one business access that, and that is funds that could be utilized to help support businesses in the meantime, and that's not happening. So I could get behind starting there, but then I think, in 6 months that needs to be reevaluated, and if there's been no change, then we know that that is not working, that program is not working, and a real discussion needs to be had, because I do struggle with taxpayers' monies sitting and not being utilized.
All right, thank you, Councillor Curry. Anybody else? Councillor Chenard.
Just a comment on it. I have to agree with Councillor Curry on that. But as far as the money sitting, 6 months from now, if it's not being utilized, we can always return that money to the COVID or back again. So it is taxpayers' money. I agree it shouldn't be sitting, but let's try this. Fully in favor of that. And it's not working, maybe we return it back to the town.
All right, thank you. Don't see any other comments. I'll just mention that I fully support the extension. I don't think it's going to accomplish what we hope to. I've heard loud and clear that the loan program is not something that the businesses are looking for. I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that more businesses take advantage of this, because I think it's a great opportunity for them to get some cash on an interest-free basis. And maybe with things reopening, there might be more confidence that they'll be able to pay that back. So I hopefully that will work, and that with increased efforts to get the word out and the options available to businesses, they will take advantage of this. But I do agree with Councillor Curry. I am really afraid that if we don't do a little bit more, we are going to end up with more businesses closing down, particularly in the sectors that were hardest hit. But I guess time will tell, and hopefully with the activity that we have in our community right now with the various projects, they will be able to survive. So I will be supporting this motion, and I would also agree that we need to have a further discussion maybe later this fall to see where we're at, and maybe look at something else entirely different to support our business community, whether an advertising campaign or something particular for I keep bringing back the restaurant sector, because I do believe that they were one of the ones hardest hit by this. With that, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council approve replacement of the Public Works Building roof at a total cost of $420,362? Councillor Wilkinson will make that motion, and we have Mr. Latour with us. Good evening, Mr. Latour.
Thank you, Mayor. Through the Mayor to Council, we brought this report forward last week to the Committee of the Whole, and I'm open to if there's any additional questions.
All right, thank you. It was talked about quite extensively last week. Councillor Chenard, do you have anything new to ask?
My only question is, Guy, how soon can they start before the season's over?
Go ahead, Mr. Latour.
Through the chair, or through the Mayor to Council, we will be able to start this project quite quickly in sometime in August. Worst case scenario, sometime in September.
All right, thank you. Councillor Curry.
Through the chair to Mr. Latour, just question. So I see the budget here is for the option 2 with the higher insulation. Were you able to connect with Brennan about energy efficiency, just to know the difference in operating? Just knowing that we are planning to go with that higher one, what are our energy efficiency recoveries there?
Through the chair to Councillor Curry, we have connected with Brendan. We are working on the potential of getting some energy efficiency numbers. We think it will help with our energy efficiency. The challenge we have is we don't actually have any drawings for the building, so we have to try to get some data that we can pull together on the building itself to do that, but we are working on that, and we do think we'll be able to contribute to our overall energy efficiency.
All right, thank you. Mr. Fisher has his hand up.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Curry, just as assurance, I did reach out to Brendan, and any energy efficiencies that are captured or that we can quantify will be included in his measurements for the MCAC program.
All right, thank you. Any other further questions, comments, or concerns? Thank you. I wasn't at committee last week, but I agree with where council's at on this. We want to do this right. We got like 70 years out of our previous roof, which I think is absolutely amazing. And hopefully by doing this properly, not only are we going to get energy efficiency, but hopefully we can have another 70 years. I know it's a big price tag, but the building itself is quite large in itself, and it serves a really important use in our community. It's hidden away. People don't think about it, but it provides so many services to our community and our neighbors in Yellowwood County as well, because all of our public works equipment is there, and of course, from street sweepers to graders. So with that, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council approve the transfer of up to $185,000 from the revenue sharing reserve to complete the roof replacement. Councillor Sorensen will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council approve the transfer of $87,750 of the unallocated portion of the federal gas tax grant funds towards a landfill vertical expansion project, which will allow for construction in 2021. Who would like to make that motion? Councillor Sorensen will make that motion. And are you going to declare a conflict there, Councillor Chenard? Just turn your camera off for a moment. We still have quorum. Okay, good. CO Beveridge, go ahead if you'd like to speak to this, or Mr. Fisher.
Respectfully, I will defer this one to Mr. Fisher.
Thank you. I'm sorry about jumping in there while you were making a motion, Mayor Zahara.
No problem.
Thanks for having me tonight. For the landfill vertical expansion, we tendered it in May 2021. The tender came in at $745,000. We had several prices. The lowest tender was over our current budget. Right now we have $340,000 remaining after design fees and everything that have been spent to date to get to this stage. The project itself includes a vertical expansion of the landfill, so it's built over the current footprint, and a compost pad to deal with our yard and garden waste. The compost pad is something that is required for our operating approval and required for to be built in the future to comply with new legislation or a new code of practice. Based on our budget limitations, we have split the project into two components. One is the vertical expansion, which we would recommend proceed in 2021. And then the second part will be the compost pad, which we would defer until 2022 to provide our partners time to fund this appropriately and so that we can fund it appropriately. The increase we're asking for is a total budget increase of $135,000 and some change. That gets split between us and Yellowhead County based on our existing agreement. So our share would be $87,750. That budget increase proposing would be funded out of the federal gas tax fund. So in 2021, we received a temporary increase to the program. So we still have some of that money that is unallocated. So we propose to use that for this additional funding. If we don't proceed with the construction of the vertical expansion in 2021, we anticipate that we would run out of landfill space in our current footprint in April 2022. That would result in a period where we have to construct this, where we would be hauling to the regional landfill, and that would incur an additional operating cost of approximately $100,000. That's based on our historical cost for hauling to the regional landfill when we had to close the landfill due to the fire. So we're proposing that we're recommending that we increase the funding by $87,500 or $750 from the federal gas tax fund to fund construction of the vertical expansion in 2021.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fisher. I will open the floor to questions, comments, or concerns. No, we have discussed this at length as well. Councillor Wilkinson.
Through the chair, I just sort of have a concern, and you probably explained this already, but the landfill, I thought at one time we had 20 years with it, then 15 the next time, and now I'm hearing 1. Like, what happened beside that the south side became sort of reclaimed for Ducks Unlimited or something? What else has happened that's caused it to go so quickly to its maximum?
Mr. Helm, if you want to take this.
Thank you, Mayor. Through the chair to Councilor Wilkinson. There was some basis of assumption of an approval from AEP for the expansion into the wetlands to the east of the current landfill. And that approval was then denied around the time of a landfill fire. And so we have, with some very quick work by administration and by operations, have created a 2-year expansion last summer to get us away from transferring all of our waste to the West Yellowhead and moving on our own site for construction and demolition waste. And this vertical expansion will be the proposed improvement to AEP and has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wilkinson. Just further to that point, Mr. Ham or Mr. Fisher, how many years do you anticipate this vertical expansion giving the town of Edson, based on what we have today in terms of policy and procedure?
Sorry, thank you, Mayor. The current approval and the expansion based on our current C&D waste is approximately 10 years. That is based on what our current numbers on in terms of volume. That's based on the expansion being maximized to its maximum available, and so that will truly be determined throughout the process of the expansion.
All right, thank you. Anybody else before I continue on with my comments? Just through to administration, I will be in support of this, but I am concerned about our capacity at the landfill, and I think that we immediately need to deter waste from outside of Yellowhead County and the town of Edson coming into our landfill. We know that we have been a place where people want to bring their waste due to our rates, and I think we need to cease doing that effective essentially immediately, based on how much landfill space we have. There are other alternatives that these haulers can go towards, and we need to service town of Edson and Yellowhead County residents. We shouldn't be worrying about what's happening outside of the region. So that would be my recommendation to administration on that. And we also need to, I would say, encourage more diversion from our landfill. And I would do that through education and making sure that residents know that we have a finite amount of time in our landfill due to ever-changing environmental policies. If you look back 20 years, we probably thought we had all the landfill space in the world, but things have been changing quite rapidly in this world, and nobody wants a landfill next to them. So to get a new landfill is going to be extremely difficult and extremely costly to taxpayers. So those would be just my comments. I don't know if administration, you want to respond to that.
I would like to respond briefly, Mayor, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
What this approval has bought us is some time to understand what the layout is going to look like in terms of approvals for a landfill going forward for this community, and going forward in terms of how we want to manage our waste. Additionally, we absolutely agree with your rates for out of county, out of town users, and so we are working towards a solution to that in the relative immediate future, as well as eventually some rate concerns that we have with our cost recovery. So thank you for sharing with us, and we are working towards that solution.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ham. Councillor Wilkinson.
Sorry, I think through the chair, I think we need to add somewhere in our publicity that people like, or somebody, some industry, something, we have to repurpose. We can't just continue filling up landfills. That really concerns me that we're filling it up this quickly. It's just unbelievable to me. So thanks if we can publicize and try to get something else started so that it's repurposed, that it isn't just put in there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. With that, I will call the question. All those in favor? And motion is carried. Councillor Chenard, you can rejoin us. And unfortunately, I think we lost Councillor Bevan with the weather. Councillor Chenard. Thank you. We will move on to the next motion, that council authorize administration to apply for the Canada Community Revitalization Fund grant to support replacement of the Glenwood Park outdoor arena, and if successful, authorize a transfer of the 25% contribution of $108,750 from the revenue cost sharing reserve. Who would like to make that motion? Councillor Chenard will make that motion. Thank you very much. And we have Ms. Byers with us. Go ahead, Tanya.
Good evening, Council. My apologies for making the motion there. I just meant I would speak to it. Really, the report is in front of you. I don't have a lot of extra information to add. The package from Global Sport Resources basically indicates that we could be shovel ready very quickly, which is one of the major recommendations, I guess, or it will really up our eligibility or likelihood of getting it if we have this application in by July 23rd and that it's shovel ready. And we, Global Sports, we would still have to go through the tender package in order for them to be the successful contractor. But they have provided this, with that understanding that it's not necessarily, it wouldn't necessarily be their job. But that being said, this amount of $435,000 they would take it right from the geotechnical straight to project completion. So with this project, I guess as it stands, it would have very little impact on our parks resources team that would not be able to, I guess, probably get it all done in short order without the help of these contractors. So it would, this would essentially replace that facility in Glenwood that is, as you know, deteriorating rapidly, and provide a lot of new activities and, make it a year-round facility that can be used for multi-sports, basketball, pickleball, you name it. And then, of course, hockey and skating in the winter time. So the information's in front of you, and I welcome any questions you may have.
All right, CEO Beveridge, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to add, to supplement Ms. Byers' presentation, it's one of these situations where a fairly fast turnaround was required for this grant application, as is normal. However, in looking at the requirements and the criteria required for this being shovel ready, etc., the team worked very hard to find a project that we had the information for that we could potentially move forward with quite quickly, and that was a good option. So I do commend the team for pulling this together rather quickly and having all of the information. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? All right, Councillor Curry, go ahead.
Through the chair, I'll just comment. Thank you to admin for finding something that did meet it. I know this grant, when it came out, was very fast, very fast. So thank you for finding something. I think this does, for a low cost, if we are successful, does add a something substantial to the community. So I think anytime that we can do something where 75% is not paid by us, it is fantastic. And I do think this is an area of the community that would help to give them something new and also spread out our resources in town. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll just comment likewise. Thank you for the quick turnaround on this. I don't think we ever want to give up a grant opportunity. And we've been successful in the past because we have shovel-ready projects and are able to put these things together. The museum is a perfect example of that, as well as the pavilion. And I think, as Councillor Curry mentioned, this will be a wonderful addition to Glenwood, which I think is a neighborhood that often things are forgotten about. Plus adding a huge facility to our community year-round. And our pickleball users, I'm sure, would be tremendously happy, and it would take some pressure off our tennis courts as well. So I'm in full support of this. With that, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. We have no information items, no sundry items, council committee reports, and we are going back to June 16th. I think I mentioned in our text was the 14th, but it's actually the 16th. And we will start today with Councillor Chenard.
Okay, I don't have the dates on my phone, but I did attend the Chrysler grand opening, the shelter pods, and the youth council, and I guess I'll throw out their lemonade stands. Great job to all. I made it through all of them, and good thing there was washrooms because there's great lemonade. I drank way too much lemonade, so that's my report.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
All right, thank you. On June 16th, I was at the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Authority meeting. On June 22nd, a committee of the whole meeting. June 29th, multiplex steering committee meeting. July 5th, youth council, last meeting of the year. And I would just say how much of a pleasure it was being on that council. And yeah, just an amazing resource for us to find out how the youth are thinking and get their input. So very important council, and it was a pleasure to be on. July 7th, another West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management meeting, and July 9th, the Chrysler grand opening. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Wilkinson.
All right, thank you. On June 16th, I was also at the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management meeting. On the 19th, Lemonade Days. Again, very good lemonade. Thanks to everyone who put the effort into that. On July 6th, I was pleased to have a 1-hour meeting with our CAO, so thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. On July 7th, another West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management. And these meetings have been very successful. Certainly not a waste of our time. We're really coming to some conclusions, which is very nice. On the 9th, I went to the Chrysler grand opening, and that was really, I'd say, quite an event for the town of Edson. We're very fortunate to have that new business. On the 12th, the Youth Council wind up, and what a great group you had. On the 13th, Committee of the Whole, and on the 14th, the grand opening of the shelter pods.
Thank you. Councillor Curry.
Wow, I just about didn't unmute myself. First time on Zoom here. On June 19th, I got the honor of being a judge for Lemonade Day. Fantastic job for everyone. Just a shout out to Community West Yellowhead, Community Futures West Yellowhead, who organized that across the region, and to Edsonites who came out and supported the entrepreneurs amazingly. The profit that the kids made, one of the stands was doing all their funds donating to the stollery, and I'm trying to remember, I know it was over 1,300. I want to say it was like 1,600. Mayor Sahara, if you remember, but so amazing. And it was delicious. I'm probably off lemonade till next year, but it was very delicious, and the youth just did a phenomenal job. June 22nd, the cow meeting. June 23rd, Community Futures West Yellowhead Strategic Planning, which was so exciting for us to do. We have been postponing for about 6 months with COVID. So we were finally able to get together and get our strategic plan. Very exciting. Definitely working on what we can do as a region to support each other, and how we as a whole collaborating team can work together. So that was really fantastic. A lot of big items moving forward. So that's exciting. June 24th, we had the Community Futures West Yellowhead AGM and directors meeting. AGM went great. We have a new executive. So some new executive in from Grand Cache and Hinton and Edson. I'm trying to remember who's all there. So that was really good. It was also the first time we all got to be together in person in a long time. So it was really nice to see everyone. June 29th, the Yellowhead County Edson Steering Committee for the multi-complex meeting. June 9th, the Chrysler grand opening. I echo what Councillor Wilkinson said. It was really fantastic to be there and to celebrate with them and to see how fast that happened and to see that end of the town open up. It was really interesting to just know that just shy of over a year ago, we watched the house that was there come down. So it was really fast and furious. So kudos to the business owners. July 12th, Youth Council wrap up. I was not on that committee, but wow, that group of youth is amazing and they're going to change the world. A couple of them are going off to university and they just blow me away. I wish I was that smart when I was their age. July 14th, Committee of the Whole, and then 13th was Committee of the Whole, and then July 14th, the Edson Shelter Pods grand opening too. And once again, thank you to that committee. That is an amazing, amazing pilot project, and we are so fortunate to have the 4 people on that committee that have really, really pushed it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Curry. On the 19th of June, I joined Councillor Curry and Bevan as judges for Lemonade Day. And after that, went home and went into diabetic shock. So it was a lot of lemonade, but the kids did just a fantastic job. And it was great to see the community just come out. It was crazy. Parking was at a premium in some of the locations, and a job well done by everybody and Community Futures West Yellowhead. On the 22nd, I met with MLA Long about provincial downloading and shared council's concerns regarding that and advised him of the information that we've compiled and our advocacy efforts on that. So he certainly appreciated the conversation, and we talked about a few other issues affecting the province, including the cost of policing and the RCMP review that is currently underway. 22nd, Committee of the Whole. On the 24th, I joined a conference call with Alberta Health Services on nurse and physician recruitment, particularly in rural Alberta, and shared our concerns about the closures at our local hospital. On the 29th, Councillor Sorensen forgot to mention this, but thank you, Councillor Curry, the multiplex steering committee meeting. There is, I'll just mention the statement of requirements in the RFP are going to be a bit delayed due to the summer schedule and COVID, but that should not impact our construction timeline significantly. We've also engaged with a consultant that will ensure construction and design are most efficient from an operational standpoint, which is really important for those that went on the tour of facilities. We know that some have been built without thinking about how many lifeguards are needed if the pool is built a certain way. So this is a really important piece for our ongoing operational costs. And the cost and quality are 2 of our main priorities on this. The third being, of course, the timelines of construction. So it was really good to have that meeting. And of course, we have our new CAOs of both municipalities engaged with that as well. July 5th, the final Youth Council meeting, and thank you to CO Beverage for attending that. Some really great questions and conversations. And as was mentioned, fantastic group of youth. The Chrysler event on the 9th, the wrap up to the Youth Council event on the 12th, the opening of shelter pods on the 14th, and just phenomenal. Many communities have already reached out wondering what we're doing, and there's been great interest in that, and that's thanks to the hard work of the committee. And then yesterday, I met with a regional representative with the mustard seed, interested in our homelessness issue and the challenges that we face, and invited him to our future mental health addictions and homelessness task force meeting, which he said he will try to attend. So we are working on a date for that for those committee members that are a part of that. So that is my report. We will move on to financial items. Can I get a motion, please, that council accept the quarterly report as of June 30th, 2021 as presented? And Councillor Curry will make that motion. Ms. Spittner, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Evening, Council. Presented to you is our usually quarterly report for June 30th. Usually gone through, and as we usually do, I've gone through and just given you some explanations about anything that is over the sort of 50th percent part substantially. considering June is the halfway point of the year. I won't go through the whole thing. I think I'll just open that up to any questions that council might have had from their review of this agenda item.
All right, thank you. I will open the floor to questions. Council. Ooh, no questions? Ooh, I like it. I'll just mess things up. I do have a question here through to administration. I'm looking in particular at the capital projects out at Vision Park, construction and site grading. We have a budget amount of $150,000. It outlines the companies that submitted, but it does not outline how much the actual tendered price was. It does in the other documents, but not on the Vision Park document. So I'm wondering why that is.
Through to the Mayor. We usually give the amounts for tenders, and this is an RFP. So long as it becomes within that budget, unless we don't usually list those prices that we get. For tenders, of course, being more specific, we do show you those amounts. Okay.
So that was an RFP process, and the others were tendering processes. Okay, thank you. And just further on that, I think they did a wonderful job at our Vision Park. And if you haven't been out there, I encourage you to go check it out. It really has enhanced that facility. Anybody else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Questions from media and public regarding items from this council meeting? And oh, look, Mark Kappas. Hey, Mark.
Hello. I don't have any questions. It just started flashing on my computer to unmute, so I unmuted. So hello, for those who haven't met me yet, I'm the new news reporter for XM 105 up in Whitecourt. So doing my best to keep apprised of what's going on in Edson.
All right, thank you very much, Mark. Mark and I worked together for several years. Anybody else, Steve?
Nope, that's the only attendee we have tonight.
All right. And congratulations, Mark, on your new role. So if we have no questions, I will entertain a motion to go into a closed meeting session. Councillor Sorensen will make that motion. All those in favor? Motion carried. We do have quorum here, so we'll continue on. Councillor Sorensen, do you have a motion you'd like to make?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that council authorizes the mayor to execute the letter of agreement with Trans Mountain detailing their obligations and responsibilities regarding the restoration of Vision Park.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. And Councillor Wilkinson, would you like to make a motion for adjournment?
Anytime. I'll make a motion to adjourn our meeting.
All right, thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night.